Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome back to the Yiboneh Midrash. Welcome home to Torah. A very warm welcome. I want to mention, as I always do, we really encourage our students to try to learn Hebrew. So you'll find in the description box below a link to where you can find the original source sheets. And it's not that we just encourage you to learn the Hebrew, what we'll call now Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language, but actually it'll help teach you how to think, because you wouldn't even know what to ask had you not known the anomalies, the strange, and I don't know if that's the correct word, but you know what an anomaly is, something that is unusual. I'd rather say unusual. A more usual word could have been used, but instead an anomaly, something unusual about the word or the word itself is being used, and it could also be in it could also be in the order. The very fact that grammatically it's out of order is an alarm bell that should, awaken you to think deeper into what the message is, because the Torah is instructions for living. That's what it is. Horaot, Torah is a manual, an instruction manual for living. So we're going to talk, and as we usually do, hopefully we can draw forth the principles, the different lessons that we can apply in our own life. This is the Torah, the Holy Torah. I also want to mention, as we're approaching the end of the year, I don't have it together yet, but you want to take the initiative, go ahead, but we're going to be putting together an end of the year fundraising campaign. So any day now, stay tuned, but you can also donate, you don't have to wait for it. Also down below, there's a link where you can make your contributions. Okay, here we go. We're in Parshat VaYigash. This is in chapter 44 of Bereshit. Chapter 44, verse 18. Now interesting, I just want to give a brief synopsis for those who are not familiar, how the Parshat work. Because how can a whole new chapter begin on the 18th verse? Because the number system is not a Jewish number system. We adopted it, but the way it worked, where there were 7 aliyot, right? Ezra, the Sofer, Ezra, the prophet, one of the last prophets, he divided them up so we would read a parsha each week, right? Before that, Moshe instituted that we read publicly 3 times a week, but you could read whatever you wanted, except on the holidays you did need to follow a certain order on the holidays. But it was Ezra, we're talking like 900 years, right, after the Torah was given. And we're talking about at that point in time that you have a division of the Parshiot. And you would read, now there's a whole question, was it a 3-year cycle, a 1-year cycle? I'm not going to get into that right now. But basically, he's the one who divided up the Parshiot. But the Jewish people always knew what the Parashat were and knew where the aliyot were. It would be, if you want to talk about something, you would talk about the first aliyah or the second aliyah or so forth. But once in the Middle Ages, and I don't know what they call the Middle Ages, but once we had, the disputations where Jews were forced to debate with the church, okay, they put Jews in a very uncomfortable situation, right? That if you win, you lose. You know what I mean? So we had to speak about numbers, speak about the verses that they were speaking about by labeling them as well. So it made sense for the disputations to use their numbering system. And we've adopted it ever since. And now you understand how a parsha can begin on the 18th verse. It's a superficial, it doesn't have any meaning. I understand there's a lot of people out there and they can quote chapter and verse. But just keep in mind, this is not a Jewish idea. Okay, we're on verse 18, chapter 44. It says, then Yehuda approached him. So Yehuda is approaching Yosef. And he doesn't yet know that this is Yosef. And for those who don't understand what's happening up to this point, go back and read it, okay? There's a chock full of stuff. But what we do is we go into 1 or 2 verses. I mean, we'll be dealing with several verses that surround this verse. So you have to catch up and know that the 12, they weren't 12, there were 10 of them. They went down to Egypt to find food because there was a famine in Israel. And, Yosef knew they were coming in, and he accused them of being spies. And there's a whole thing that played out with taking Shimon, and then basically having to bring Binyamin down, and then bring Binyamin down. And Binyamin was, let's just say, either caught or set up, right, where there's a goblet. And now we're at the point where Yehuda is very upset. Okay? Yehuda's, I better not say the word, but he was upset. And Yehuda approached him and said, "Please, my Lord." Now, what we're going to discuss in Hebrew is those words, Bi Adoni. Bi Adoni. So it says, Vayigash elav Yehuda. Yehuda approached him. V'yomer Bi Adoni. So, how would you translate Bi? All by itself, it's a very hard, it just means inside me, within me. But in context, it means please. Okay? So, please, my Lord, Yedaber na avdecha, davar ba'aznei Adoni. Let your servant, he's calling himself your servant, which we're going to have to deal with, as third person. Why is he speaking in third person? Words into the ears of my master. Now, why would that be important? Right? Just speak like a normal conversation. No, I want to make sure they go into your ears. And don't get angry. V'lo yichar apcha bi'avdecha. Don't get upset with avdecha, with your servant. Again, we'll see if that's third person, why he's still speaking that way. Ki kamocha kaparo, because you are just like Paro. Now this is chock full, and I mean full of so much meaning that we have to, we'll say, dissect it little by little. So the Yakar begins by giving us a notion of something, because he's going to talk about these words, Bi Adoni. So he begins by saying, Lefi kvar shekavar amru lo achim. Now, it doesn't mean that the brothers said to him, Yosef, but Yehuda said to Yosef already on behalf of the brothers in verse 16, 2 verses prior. 2 verses prior, in verse 16, it says, and Yehuda said, what shall we say to my master? He's speaking on behalf of the other brothers. What shall we speak, and how shall we exonerate ourselves? Now, these are the important words. He's saying to them, he's saying on their behalf, him included, to Yosef, God has found your servant's iniquity. What is going on in this verse? Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and the one in whose possession the goblet has been found, meaning Benjamin. Now in Hebrew, that part where he says in verse 16, God has found your servant's iniquity. Hebrew, Elohim matzah es avon avadecha. God found the sin of your servant. Okay, what's going on here? What is Yehuda recognizing 2 verses previously? The reason the Yakar is bringing this in, because this is going to explain what does it mean, Bi Adoni, within me. I'll just feed you a little bit, like spoon feed you a little bit. He's admitting that the sin is within him. As verse 16 says, that God has found all these things that occurred, going down to Egypt and being, let's say, duped, framed, put into prison, so to speak, different times, one of them, accused of different things. So, Rotzol Amar, what does that mean, that God found the sin of your servants? Well, actually, Rashi brings it down, but it says, Matzalo Balchov Makom Ligbot et Chovo. Okay, now what does that mean? Now, if you look in the English sheets, number 2, that's verse 16. Rashi mentions right there. We know that we have not sinned, meaning we did not steal that goblet. None of us did. But this has come, whatever's happening, the pressure, right, that you've already taken one of us and you want another one, or whatever it is, right? You have Binyamin, you're not going to give him up so easily. whatever situation we're in causing our father so much pain, everything that transpired, it's because God brought this to us. God has brought this upon us, and therefore the statement, and I have it in Hebrew here, Matzah bal chov makam ligavot shtar chovo. I'm sure that's what the Yakar is trying to say. What Rashi is saying, the creditor with a capital C, that's Hashem, has found a place to collect his debt. We sinned, and God is not just going to let us go free. There's some kind of payment that has to be made. And we feel, at least Yehuda's expressing this, if we sinned, and I know I did, that all of this that's coming about is due to my sin. Now, if we can all imagine in our own lives that this is also true. When things happen, you stub your toe, you lose money, you lose your wallet, you lose your keys, you get locked out of your house, whatever it is. There's a whole bunch of things that happen. There is a judge and there's judgment in this world. This world is not hefker. It's not a free-for-all. Hashem is the ultimate judge, and we say he's Dayan Emet, right? He's really the true judge. And there's nothing that happens for naught. Okay, that's a double negative, right? Okay. So here we have it. So the Rav Zulo, the Yakar is saying that this is hinted that what? Shekol ze alilos devarimhu, all of this scheme, all of this is caused. In fact, we're going to say that this is all a frame-up, but all this happened. Elohim ina liyadam kol hakoros halalu maknas avon acher shasu. That God is directly into their hands everything that's happened on account of another sin. Not the sin because they know they didn't steal the goblet. Not because of that, but because of another sin, a previous sin. Okay, do we all know what that sin is yet? No. Okay, so for those, we're on chapter 44, but I'm going to, drum roll please. Aaron, drum roll. Guys, come on, big, loud, drum roll, come on. It's not a happy statement, but it's a true statement. It's the Mechirat Yosef, the sale of Yosef. And who is most responsible? We'll find out. If you don't know, from reading the verses previously and all the Rashis and Midrashim, we're about to find out. V'hu ma she'asu la'acheihem Yosef. And this is what they did to their brother Yosef. Kamosha Amru. Now listen to what it says in chapter 42, verse 21. They said to one another, this is going back two chapters previously, right? They said, indeed, we are guilty for our brother. What are they talking about? Of course, they're coming to this understanding that everything that has happened is really, because, or at least Yehuda is expressing that we witnessed the distress of his soul when he begged us and we did not listen. This is why this trouble has come upon us. Unbelievable tzidkis, righteous people can come to this clarity and understanding. It's an amazing idea. But in Hebrew, aval ashemim anachnu alachinu. We are guilty because of what we did to our brother. Al kein bo aleinu hatzura hazot. That is why all the tsaros, all the negative things, all these seeming punishments have come to us. Okay? So far, so good. Now, the Yakar goes on and says like this. V'al oto avon amar Yehuda kemitvadeh al chatav. Which means like this. It's on that sin, the sin of the sale of Yosef, that Yehuda is saying, he's speaking as if he's confessing for his sin. By saying, when he says, Bi Adoni, he's approaching Yosef. He doesn't know it's Yosef. He's approaching the viceroy of Egypt, who has Binyamin. And he's saying, he's saying a lot of things, but he wants Binyamin to go. He wants Binyamin to be free, and he's willing to put himself into the prison, into the position that Binyamin is in right now. And he wants to be the slave. In other words, if Binyamin is captured, he'll basically be a slave to the viceroy of Egypt. And he wants to be in his position. He wants him to go free. So that's why he says, Bi Adoni, Oto Avon Acher. Not the sale, not the stealing of the goblet. That he didn't do. But rather on a sin that we'll call the sale of Yosef, which was a big sin. Asher anu choshim shehu sibeb lanu kol korois, that we are considering the main reason for everything that has happened to us till this point is because of the sale of Yosef, and it's taloi bi. Yehuda is saying it's hanging on me, it's dependent on me. I'm the most guilty party, yoter mikol achai, more than my other brothers. It was my idea. Al kain ani muchrach lekanes bavi akora. That's why I'm forced to move forward, to enter the scene, so to speak, right? Uledaber bifanecha yoter mikulam. He's actually, he's not saying this to Yosef. He's saying it to himself. He's saying it to God. He's saying it for his brothers, right? But in a certain sense, these are the words he's actually saying to Yosef. He's saying, right? Be Adoni. The sin is within me. That's why I'm the one who's forced to move forward and try to release him or take responsibility. That's a better idea. He's trying to take responsibility for his brother in a way that he failed in the past. The emet kenu. Now the truth is as follows. Just like it was said in chapter 38, verse 1, which you'll find on number 4. What happened there? It says the Yered Yehuda me'et achav. So after Yehuda had sold, after Yosef was sold, and they realized how depressed their father was, they themselves had charata to a great extent, and they said, now it came about that time that Yehuda was demoted by his brothers, and he turned away until he came to an Adulamite man named Chira. But the Hebrew here, it says, the Yered Yehuda me'et achiv. What does it mean that Yehuda went down? It means they demoted him. They said amongst themselves, Yehuda, if you would have told us to bring him back to father, we would have put him on our shoulders and brought him right back. But you were the ones that said, in other words, you were the leader, and you said it, and we followed you. That was wrong. It was wrong. And therefore, look at Rashi. What's this doing here? To teach us that Yehuda's brothers demoted him from his high position when they saw their father's distress. They said to him, now you were the one that told us to sell him. If you would have told us to bring him back, we would have observed you. We would have listened to whatever you had said. Obeyed you. Fine. Thank you. Okay, so Perish Rashi, we just saw the Rashi, but in Hebrew, Echav horiduhu migdulato. The brothers demoted him. They brought him down from his greatness. V'amru, and they said, Ata amarta lanu lemachro. You're the one that told us to sell him. V'ilu amarta lanu lehoshivo. If you would have told us to return him, hayinu oisim. That's what we would have done. Okay. Now, the Yakar is going to give us 2 reasons, but he's going to start with the first. He's going to introduce us to 2 deeper understandings on Bi Adoni. Remember, those are the key words. We're spending 1 hour, really, unraveling, right? Rolling it out. What does it mean, in me, my master? Oto avon talui bi. So far, it's that sin that is dependent on me, that's hanging on me. Here's the first understanding. Echadu. Mechmat shabo l'taretz. It's coming to answer a question that we should all have had. Lama ani nigash ledaber lefanecha yoter mikulam. Why is Yehuda stepping forward more than any of the other brothers? Aren't we all in this together? Aren't the tribes all equal? No. There's somebody who's a leader, and that's Yehuda. And he's taking responsibility. But the question is, why am I doing that? Why am I approaching to speak more than anybody else? Lefi shani chavtim bekol oto nagigulim sha'avro lehem machamat oto avon. It's because I am obligated or liable for all of what transpired. The word Gilgulim is like, the cycle of events, the chain link fence, the what do you call those things? Domino effect. You hit one.
Or the snowball.
Snowball effect, very good. That passed over them on account of that sin. Because of that one sin, you have a history unraveling in front of us. Alpha Pisha Rashi Perush Amasha Amar. Now you have to look at that Rashi. We're going to see in Rashi 44:32. Let's see the words themselves. This is a verse that Larry just mentioned. For your servant assumed responsibility for the boy from my father, saying, if I do not bring him to you, I will have sinned against my father forever. In Hebrew, ki avdecha arev. An arvut is absolute responsibility. Like he's putting himself in as collateral, which is interesting. He's taking full responsibility if the boy does not come back. And look in Rashi, that there he explains that he made an oath that if he doesn't bring this boy back, Benjamin back, he'll be excommunicated, not only in this world, but also in the world to come. Now that's a great idea, to make oaths in order to strengthen your resolution to do something. But this is very dangerous because you're talking about your whole existence, not only from this world, but from the world to come. This Yehuda was serious. He was seriously taking responsibility to bring Benjamin back. Afa Pi Shaperish Rashi, we just read that. The Rashi explains, Ki Avdecha Arev. Now what does that mean? That he's taking responsibility. Lama ani niknas latigar yotim mishar achai. Why am I? We're trying to answer the question. Why is Yehuda entering into the scene? Or actually here, latigar means to argue or advocate. He went in and really had a confrontation over this more than any of the other brothers. They didn't step forward. And the answer that we saw in Rashi was, Lefi shenikasharti bekesher chazak, because I bound myself with such a strong knot, liyot menudem mishnei alamot, in order that, to take him back, that I would be excommunicated from both worlds. That's the medrash that Rashi brings. Mikol makom, however, nevertheless, higuf yakasha. This stuff, we're still left with the original question. Lamu kibel alav nido yoter mishar chav. Why did he actually take this extra responsibility, and in this case, upon himself to be excommunicated, where none of the other brothers did this? We should really think deeply about the strength of Yehuda. Right? He is the leader of the Jewish people, right? Mashiach comes to him. In fact, I just tell people to look at Rabbi Breidewitz's class last week on the shir of the two Mashiachs, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben Dovid, Mashiach ben Yehuda, and to see, because we're talking about this week's Parsha, the confrontation between the two of them. But anyway, it remains a question, why in the world, in the first place, did he accept upon himself such a strict or stringent punishment if he doesn't bring him back? Ella, here's going to begin the answer. Ella, lefi shehirgosh biyatzmo. He felt within himself. He had a certain perception internally, shu hayachaya ba'oto avon, that he knew he was guilty of that sin. Asher sivev lehem alilas meragli matem. He knew that when Yosef accused them of being spies, and that's what he did in chapter 42, verse 14. Right? It says over there, Yosef said to them, this is just what I have spoken to, saying you are spies. When he heard this accusation, that helped him come to realize that he was guilty of this sin. Why? This is a puzzle we have to put together. The only way that he can get out of that accusation of being accused of spies, is by bringing Benjamin down. Okay? So, if that's the case, getting Benjamin out from their father's, reshus, with permission of their father, was going to be very difficult. Why? Because he had an older brother who's gone, is not anymore. And the father loved his son, Benjamin, and wasn't going to depart so easily with him. Okay, so Alkein Hutzrachu Lekabe Alav Nidoy. This is the reason why he had to accept upon himself this possible excommunication if he doesn't bring him back. Kedei Sheyitin as Binyamin al Yado. He used that as a tactic in order to bring Benjamin down. The Sheyotzi es Echav min Alila. He wanted to remove or exclude his brothers from these false reports, these false charges, right? The accusations. Asher Sibeb hu lehem al yedei shamar lehem limchor es Yosef. He understood that all this came about because he opened his mouth and he said, let's sell Yosef. Because he's the one who said that, everything like this came about. Va'od, Sheyakov Amar Lehem, if you look in chapter 42, verse 38, that's number 7 on the source sheet. So it says, Lo yered Binyamin imachem. This is what Yaakov says. I'm not sending Binyamin down, right? My son shall not go down with you. Ki achiv meis, because this is what he thought, that Yosef was dead. His brother Yosef was dead. His brother's dead, and he alone is left. He's all alone. V'hu levado nishar. Okay, so what do we hear from this? This is a little bit complicated, but I'll try to say it outside, that if Yosef had never been stolen, right? Sold or right? So then Yaakov would never have hesitated to let Binyamin go. So listen to this. Remember the taina, the claim that Yaakov made was, my son shall not go down because his brother's dead and he's all alone. Had his older brother still been alive, he wouldn't have made that claim. Hayishalech is Binyamin miyad. He would have sent Binyamin immediately. The Nimsas Yehuda, what comes out that we understand about Yehuda? Shemitzad Shetziva Limchor es Yosef, because it was his idea. He told his brothers, he pressured his brother, he convinced his brothers, yeah, it's a good idea, so let's sell Yosef. Sivev Shalorasa Yaakov L'shloch is Binyamin. That's the whole reason that Yaakov doesn't want to send Binyamin down. It's called clarity. It's all coming to a head. It's understood by Yehuda. It's all because I initiated the sale of Yosef. And it's because of this that I have to enter the scene. I have to get out there and put my left foot forward. In order to take responsibility and accept upon myself the ultimate punishment if I don't bring Binyamin back. And that's why it says, Bi Adoni. Everything is hanging on me. I am clear about my involvement in my sin. And that is so far the first explanation. Okay, and the second reason is now going to be discussed. V'tam hasheni hu, lefi sherotza lomar. What Yehuda wanted to say was like this: Yeshev no avdecha, remain, right? To let your servant stay, avdecha. Tachat hana'ar, instead of the boy, instead of the young man, evid ladoni. In other words, Yehuda is saying to Yosef, he doesn't know it's Yosef yet, let me replace him, right? You ever see those cop shows and the head cop comes and says, like the guy holding the hostage is really going to do it. Give the hostages, take me. So okay, we're going to focus in on the idea also that it says nar. I mean, come on, Binyamin is not a nar. He's already in his 30s. He already has 10 children. Okay, so we're saying that Yehuda is saying, I am going to make a better servant than this. As I mentioned before, we call a nar is a boy, a young man. And that's how it's translated, right? Look what it says over there. It says, and number 8. So now, please let your servant stay instead of the boy as a slave to my Lord. And may the boy go up with his brothers. But you have to see Rashi, because that's what we're going to discuss. I am superior to him in all respects, in strength, in battle, and in service. Now, where did Rashi get this from? Listen to what the Yakar explains. It says like this: V'yitan olav hamoishel. So basically, we're saying that he made a claim to whom? We're talking about Yosef. We'll call him the Moshel. Okay, you have a king, that we'll call that Pharaoh, and the Moshel is basically, which we translate as a governor or a ruler. So he didn't know that it was Yosef, but okay, he's talking to the Moshel, and the Moshel's talking to him. So the person in that position is basically saying, Lama yetze chayiv zakai, v'zakai yetze chayiv l'kanes b'ol avdus chinam. It's, in other words, we said earlier on, there's a God, there's justice in this world. And Yosef is asking, I don't understand, you're innocent, and Binyamin's guilty of stealing the goblet. Why put you, who are innocent, into the position and let the obligated guy go free? Okay, that's how you read it. Lama yotze chayiv zakai. Why should we let the guilty party go free, innocent? Vazakai, and you who are innocent, yatzei chayav likanes b'ol ha'avdus bechinam. You're going to end up being a slave for nothing. Al Kain, remember, we're trying to understand, what does it mean, bi adoni? That Yehuda stepped forward as taking responsibility, right? Ultimate responsibility. It's in me. The sin is within me. Be'emet, sha'oto avon, it's that very sin. Hagorim lekulam sheyu avodim taloi bi yoter mi bekulam. The very sin that caused all of these people, the brothers, to become slaves, I'm the one that brought it all about. Al kain dinhu, therefore logic dictates she'oinish ha'avdus hanifsak al binyamin, that this psak din, so to speak, this verdict, we call it an onish, a punishment. It's logical. The punishment of slavery or being enslaved that was decreed upon Binyamin, turn the page, yichol alai, it should be placed upon me. The emet kenu, and that is the truth. Kihu goram shalaevid nimchar Yosef, because he's the one, remember, Yehuda is ultimately the one that caused Yosef to go into slavery. Yosef was sold as a slave. Aval lishar echav ein ashma gedola kokach. But the guilt of the other brothers is not nearly, it's almost negligent. It doesn't compare to the guilt of Yehuda. The Choshechem Binyamin, how much more so that guilt should not apply to Binyamin at all, who wasn't even part and parcel of the whole scheme of selling Yosef. Shein lo chelek klal ba'ot avon. He had no part in that sin at all. Now, continuing on, we're now looking back at our first verse, verse 18, where it says, Yedaber no avdecha, let speak your servant, please, davar, some words, ba'azne adoni, a word into the ears of my master. Now guess what? We are going to speak about this idea of being third person, but not yet. Okay. Lefisharotza ledaber olav shekol inyan hagabiyahu. Just keep this in mind. Let's break the verse down. He's asking very kindly to speak into the ears, but he says, I'm your servant, basically, and I'm going to speak these words into your ears. Because he wanted to speak to him about the whole concept, the whole story of this goblet that was basically a frame-up. But he wanted to speak to him in private, as quietly as possible. Al kain nigash alav lilchosh baznav. He wanted to approach him in a way that he would be able to whisper, so to speak. Remember, there's Egyptians in the room, right? We find out when he wants to reveal himself, he starts breaking down. He tells the Egyptians to leave. So there's Egyptians in the room. He doesn't want anybody to hear what he's about to do. Shelo yitbayesh. He doesn't want to embarrass Yosef. He doesn't know it's Yosef, but he doesn't want to embarrass the king's viceroy. Because what happens is, if he embarrasses him, or he speaks loudly and it causes the viceroy to be embarrassed, this would then cause the viceroy to be angry. But what happens when you get angry? You're bound to make mistakes. And therefore he begins, again, continuing actually the end of that verse, Ki kamocha kaparo, because you are like Pharaoh. What does that mean, you're like Pharaoh? Kamo sharoi lechalek kavod lemachut. You have a certain status. Even though you're number 2, it doesn't matter. You're on the higher ups, the echelon, the top, what they call that, the top 1%. And therefore, it's fitting to speak kindly to you, not to embarrass you, to give you all the honor of a king. That's what he means when he says you're just like Pharaoh. V'shein ledaber kashos bifnei melech. This is, the Life of Brian, one of my favorite movies. But we should all learn the lesson from here. You have to be very careful how you speak in front of a king, unless he's Caesar and it's a part of a movie called Life of Brian. Then apparently you can get away with making all the fun of the king that you want. But that's not the normal scene. See, if you go to Mishlei, that's in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 14. Watch out when you're in front of a king. Make sure you use proper verbiage. Make sure you don't make the king angry. As it says, the king's wrath is like messengers of death. Chamat melech malachei maves. If he gets angry, you start making your confession. Okay? Kach ein nachal ledaber gavoa lehoitzi atach mipiv neged kol hashomim. Therefore, we understand from that it would not be proper to speak arrogantly, right? In order to draw out any kind of haughtiness from your mouth, neged, in front of anybody else who's listening, because if in that movie where they'll start laughing, but he was like a retard, and I don't know if that's a proper word to use. The Caesar in Life of Brian, he was really mentally challenged. Okay, you have to see that scene. You have to see the scene. Umimenu lamdu zeh. Okay, now what does this mean here? That means that Yosef that Yehuda learned from Yosef. Ki Yosef Amar, Yosef said it earlier also. Look in chapter 44, verse 4. It says over there, listen, when he chased them down, Yosef didn't chase them down, but he sent people to chase them down. Listen to what he said to them. They had exited the city, it's number 10, and they had not gone far when Yosef said to the overseer of his house, get up, pursue the men, and when you overtake them, then you say to them, why have you repaid good with evil? Now, what is he trying to say in the Hebrew when it says, kum rodof acharei hanashim v'hisagtem? Catch up to them, reach them, and then speak to them. Normally, if you ever see people who get robbed, someone runs by and steals somebody's pocketbook, she'll start screaming, thief, thief, catch him, or whatever. Whatever. I don't know what they say, get my stuff back, right? No, he wanted his servant to reach them and then speak to them. Listen to his words here. It's dafka kishatigishem, kisha tasigem tiyes samuch lehem. It's only when you reach them, reach up to them, and you're close enough to them, Tidaber ba'aznam inyan hagbiyah. This is what Yosef told his own servant. Only once you reach them, you don't shout, reach them and have a conversation about the goblet. V'lo titzach aleim merachok. Do not scream from afar. Lahari aleim kaganav. To shout that they're like thieves, right? If you're in a horse chase, you can only imagine you're screaming, stop, stop in the name of the law, right? Whatever is supposed to be said. No, he doesn't want them doing that. Not to embarrass them either. First of all, the whole thing was a setup. So how much worse could it have been if he made it such a public spectacle? But he was telling his servant, or the overseer of his house, to just have a conversation between you and them. Shelo yede hamitzrim davar mizeh, so that the other people who were witnessing, I guess these are the Egyptians, whoever's on the streets, watching you overtake them, don't have even a clue what's going or being said. Al kain gam v'kuach zeh rotza Yehuda lichosh ba'aznav. Therefore, also this altercation that Yehuda wanted to also have a conversation in, not called secret, but in a whisper into his ears. V'kolo lo yishama el mitzrim. So even the Egyptians in the rooms would not hear what was being said. So far?
Nice.
Va'amru. We also have to deal with those words. Do not become angry with your servant. V'al yichar apcha bi'av decha. Don't become angry with your servant. And he brings up this idea. We kind of glanced through it already. We spoke about mistakes. Ki kol ka'as mevi leitut. That anybody who gets angry is likely to make mistakes. It's like a natural result. Right? We also say in Judaism, if you get angry, it's like idol worship. Okay? But here we're talking about as a Moshel or a king, right? King Solomon, he was a judge. If you're a judge, we judge all the time, right? We get angry, we make mistakes. V'yigrum shelo yikansu tonotav ba'aznecha af imayu nochachim lemevin. That, in other words, don't get angry, so because anybody who gets angry makes mistakes, and that would cause that will, right? We want to make sure that you don't get angry so that you will not enter any kind of mistakes in your ears, even for those who are present and actually understand. Ki hakas yigrom shelo tucha lishpa b'tzedek, because the anger itself causes somebody that they're not able to judge properly. V'im tomar, now if you want to say umabekach, so what? So what's the big deal? Ki'im lifamim ezas. So you know what? There's always what's the word? Appeals. So okay, so you're a judge, so you make a mistake. Okay, we're not talking about, it's a life or death thing and take the guy out already. But let's just say you always have an appeal. So the guy made a mistake, so let them appeal. That's why he says you're just like Pharaoh. Pharaoh has the last say. You have no more appeals. You're the last say. Get it right. Listen to what he says. It's true. Fine. So what if I make a mistake? Sometimes we'll call either the administering the minister or the governor. She'll make a mistake in law. But there's always a higher court. The king has the last say. And you can always take an appeal higher up to the king. And he can always fix what the lower court or what the governor seemed to mess up. And that's what he says. Ki kamocha kaparo. Yehuda is saying you're just like Pharaoh, not in a negative sense, but like you're the last stop. The etzlecha hagamar din. You make the final verdict. Kamo etzel paro, just like Paro would. Vein likach hamishpat mimcha el melech. And there's no higher place. Remember, Pharaoh even said, I give you all the authority, right? At least over food. But I give you all the authority. Everything's in your hands. Ulifanecha mishpati yetze mikol v'kol. And therefore, he gave him the full authority for all of judgments. Al kain ani mevakesh. Therefore, Yehuda is saying, this is what I'm asking. She'einecha techazena meisharim. That at least in your eyes, let it be fair. Try not to make a mistake. Don't get angry. You're the end, and we're giving you all the honor. V'al yichar apcha. Don't get angry. V'az lo tovo lidetut. Then you won't come easily to make a mistake. Now, the Yakar says, yesh ledaktek. If you really carefully examine this, lama amar b'lashon nistar. Why were the words said in third person? Nistar means hidden. Why is it say in a language of hiddenness? What he means, and this is the code, he means to say, why was it said in third person? Because Yehuda says, let now your servant speak in your ears. Your servant, me. Maybe not. Let's see. V'nochal amar. we're able to say, Lefi Sharatzalam. What did he want to say? Yes, we spoke about this already in verse 33. Yeshev no avdecha tachas hana'ar. Let your servant please be in place of the child or the youth. Remember, we already discussed that. He's in his 30s. L'chol davar ani mula mimenu. What he was trying to say is, your servant, me, is better than him. You want a real good servant? You're better off with me. I'm experienced. In what? Wait till you hear. Ligvura, I'm stronger. Milchama, I'm a warrior. L'shamesh, and I can do good service. Okay? His kirkan odin yan echad. Now, besides that, another idea. Ki kol eved tzarich leida davar bifnei malachim. If you want to be a good servant, especially to a king, you need to know how to speak in front of other kings. In other words, your king, you're serving your king, he's going to have distinguished guests, right? Ambassadors and whatnot, other kings. So, ulisader divorov, someone who can organize their words. Shikantsu ba'aznehem, that you can, like I'm doing right now, I'm showing you. I'm not embarrassing you. You're like the king. And watch me, I'm doing this like not to embarrass you. I'm speaking in your ear. This is what a good servant for a king would do. Not only that, but that the words would be with intelligence and in a proper order. And guess what? I'm your guy. I'm just showing you. But any kind of servant who doesn't know these things, who can't put together a sentence, an intelligent sentence, who can't organize his words on the highest level, he's not fit to be a slave to the king. Well, you're just the Moshel, like the second in command, but you're just as important as a king. L'chach Amar, that's why he says, Kalpei Mash Amar Yosef Derek Psak. This is in verse 17. It's number 11 on the sheet. He said, far be it from me to do this. The man in whose possession the goblet was found, he shall be my slave. So ha'ish asher nimsa gbia biyadahu li eved. It's clear that Yosef said, I guess Binyamin, or whoever is going to be found the goblet, will be my slave. Hare odonar. Yehuda is saying he's just a kid. Okay, we know he's not a kid. It means he's inexperienced. He's 30 years old, for God's sakes. He's not a boy. But he's odonar. He's still immature. He's still not as mature as I am. He's not fit to speak in front of you. And that's what he's basically saying. Go ahead. Check it out. You want to try with him? Bavakasha. Go for it. You want to see me? I'm well experienced. Check me out. See? I'm speaking I want to speak in your ear. Asher becharta lecha, which you have chosen for yourself, a slave. That's what it means in third person. Right? He says, let your servant speak. I'm the man. Davar ba'aznei adoni. In other words, into your ears. Ba'ofen, in a way. If I speak to you in your ears, it's in a way, sha'al yichar apacha, where you're not going to get angry at your servant. Bi'avdecha. Timsa ki bevada yichar apcha. That if you choose him, certainly you're going to get angry. But if you choose me, you're not going to get angry. Sharei, kamocha kaparo. You are just like Pharaoh. Uledaber lifnei ish ke'erchacha. Now this means, and therefore to speak in front of a man who is like your value, your stature. Yeah? Tzarich ish chacham v'navon. You need an especially smart and understanding person. And I'm it. V'lo nar ubar kamo. Can you imagine talking about Binyamin like this? But it's going to save his life. And not like a immature ignoramus like him. Aval bi adoni. Me, within me, my master. Timsa koma shet ata mivakesh. You're going to find that whole list. You wrote up, a job description right? I fit every box. You can check off every box. I'm the man. V'lo bo, but not him. He maybe one box, maybe two, but not the whole page. Afilu hadibru eino bo. He doesn't even know how to speak. V'chol shechein sheno yodei shar taksisei malchus. He doesn't know all the strategies or all how the operations work within a palace. But I'm the guy. I'm your guy. Now, just end the Yeshamrim Shamar. Some say when he says Yidaber na avdecha, let your servant speak. Asher also masag bia unetano ba'am tachat binyamin, which means like this, which he performed, which he did, this action of the Gevia, of the goblet, and he placed, not me. Remember, third person. Listen now. Yidaber na, let's speak your servant. The servant that did the act of setting up and framing Benjamin. He's the one who did it. Let him speak up. Vu yagid al kol hakoros, and he'll be able to tell everything that happened. V'shakol ze alilus devarim, that everything that was said is a frame up. See, I want to mention that I've been thinking about this the whole week. Truth always comes out in the end. Okay, this world is full of sheker, right? It's full of lies, but you know what? Truth always wins. It takes time. You have to be patient, but you have to have faith. It will always come out in the end. And we can see Hashem builds up the evil, because the higher you are, the harder it is, the harder the fall. In other words, what do they say? There's an expression like that. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. You can imagine, right? Someone who's 3 feet and falls over, he doesn't get as hurt. Oh, children. Yeah. Just think about the kids. Okay, so they also have diapers, they have padding, and they have a little bit extra fat. What do you call it? Baby fat. Nobody's shaming any, of course. And they're closer to the floor. So it doesn't hurt as much, right? And of course, so Hashem also allows, remember, there's free will. He also has patience. He wants people to do tshuva. He wants people to repent. But he also allows you to make, what they say, like enough rope to hang themselves, right? And this is what we see happening. We see it. You know that it's true. You know that it's happening. And the truth will come out. So B'ezrat Hashem, all I can say is there are a lot of lessons here. You can see, you can feel the ruach when you're learning the Torah. You know that the words are true. And it's lessons for all of our lives. In B'ezrat Hashem, we should all continue to grow in Torah, grow in understanding, grow in love and brotherhood, and be good examples for the rest of the world. So with that, I'll just sign off and say, Shabbat Shalom and have a great life.
It's